Chelsea can surprise a lot of people this season, Breton. I am feeling it, honestly. Pochettino, with this team that no one expects anything, but they have a bold stature and history that they know they have to match. Enzo Fernandez knows that Chelsea is the only team in London with Champions Leagues. 2 Champions Leagues, in fact, he said in that interview. And he knows he needs a partner in crime in that midfield, that I think it will happen. I think Chelsea next season will have Enzo Fernandez in midfield with Moises Caicedo next to him. And then in front of them, I think Michael Olise is going to happen, people. Michael Olise to Chelsea. It's the right move. Make it happen. 35 million release clause. Cheap for what he's going to bring. And he stays in London. It's the best move. And this midfield is so good, mate. So good. I'm out.
It is, but I'm going to tell you right now, Moises Caicedo to Chelsea is not getting done.
Why?
I don't see it getting done. They've already moved on. They brought in Lesley Ugochukwu. Hopefully I got that right. 19-year-old from Stade Rennais, who I think is going to grow into that role. But you didn't buy him to loan him out. They bought him because they think Moises Caicedo is going to take another year or two. And I think Moises Caicedo is likely going to stay at Brighton at least this season. And I think he's preparing to do so, or there's going to be some crazy drama that happens.
Yep.
But unbelievable. I have stopped trying to make sense of this installment payment thing, this financial fair play, all of this capital that just continues to get poured onto the fire here at Chelsea. But I have to ask you, we had a podcast literally 1 week ago, okay? 6 days ago, because we filmed on Sunday last week. And since then, Chelsea has spent 90 million euros in the books, and they've got potentially another 20 or so ready to go for David Washington from Santos. And they're collecting Pokemon again. They're doing it all over again. They're collecting people.
Not collecting.
But Disasi,
I like it, honestly. I remember speaking to you before this summer, and I clearly stated to you that Colwill, Havertz, Mason Mount, Kante, Azpilicueta, there was going to be a huge clear out at the club. And this is what's going to happen too, Breton. There's going to be a huge in. Caicedo is happening, mate. Caicedo, if it's not Caicedo, I guarantee you a top midfielder will be next to Enzo at the beginning of next season in the Premier League. They will not have Lesley Ugochukwu. That was the replacement that Caicedo. 2-3 weeks, Chelsea have a new midfield with Enzo, with a new player next to him. I think they will sign another player. And I love how you mentioned Lesley, because he was going to be the player that Brighton were going to replace Caicedo with. So Todd Boehly said, I might as well pay up and get the player that they're going to get for Caicedo. So I see it as depth. I see it as a great option. I think Casadei will be going on loan to Leeds. I love that match with Enzo Maresca. I think he can do great things with Casadei. And Andre Sanchez, I'm positive. I'm really positive on Chelsea, being honest. And if Michael Olise happens, and then you see Robert Sanchez, it's not just Caicedo. it's Robert Sanchez 2 in goal, Graham Potter, Cucurella. They keep on going, and it will keep on happening. Even Evan Ferguson, if they don't have a striker in 2-3 years, he might go to Chelsea. You never know. You never know.
I know, and this is collecting. When it comes down, they have bought the market value of Spurs in transfer fees. They have spent over €500 million on under 23 talents in literally the last 12 months. And that's not even counting Ugochukwu. It's not counting David Washington. It's not counting some of the ones that have yet to fully get over the line, although Ugochukwu did get over the line. So I get what's going on here, but they're not buying Premier League talent. That's the interesting thing, right? They're not buying Premier League talent.
Colwill,
they're buying Lawrence Stewart is obviously being leaned upon, right, as the sporting director, co-sporting director. Obviously, he was at Monaco the past 2 seasons. They bought Benoit Badiashile first, and then they're like, hey, let's get Axel Disasi because he was pretty good for Monaco, right? Which that's a great move, especially after the Wesley Fofana news.
Exactly.
But when it comes down to it, they just continue to spend. And at some point, at what point does a player like that would be thinking of going to Chelsea stop wanting to go to Chelsea because of this way too much competition for spots.
I think it's
way
still
too
early.
much competition for spots.
I think it's still
I know.
early.
I think he's not done. I agree with you in that sense. That Todd Bowley is definitely not done spending just yet. But if you bring in Caicedo and say it gets done in the next week, that'll be $200 million spent in 2 weeks' time. And I don't even think it matters. We're getting desensitized to it. It feels like Saudi Arabia is happening on our shores at this moment in time in terms of bringing in these players. What we really like about it, and why I'm trying not to rationalize and figure it out from a financial point of view, is what we love about it is these are all young kids, mostly, right? These are guys that we want to see do really well. But if you put 11 of them or 13 of them in your roster, or you send 4 of them on loan to Strasbourg or something like that, you're going to need more places for these guys to play because they didn't come to play second-tier football. They didn't come to play Premier League 2.
I get you, I get you. And just going against what you're saying, though, I do see Premier League talent or English playing in England talent being a bet for next season. Ian Maastsen has been such a positive impact from the preseason at Chelsea. And honestly, it gives hope to the Chelsea Academy. It says that Pochettino looks inside too. And Levi Colwill will be a huge role next season too for Chelsea. So I think we're going to see a very different Chelsea next season from what we saw from last. I think the mentality's changed. Definitely. And I think they'll be fighting for top 4. I really believe Chelsea can get... I don't think they'll end top 4, but they will be fighting. And I certainly feel if Harry Kane leaves Tottenham, they'll finish above Tottenham. In my opinion, Mudryk will be much better. Enzo will be much better with another midfielder. That if it's not Caicedo, get André. Get André, okay, of Fluminense. He's going to Liverpool. That's a bargain. That's a bargain for 20 million to get André from Brasileirão, directly from Brasileirão to the Premier League. Very interesting that this is starting to happen. But why doesn't Chelsea still get him ahead? And he would be cheaper as a Caicedo replacement, in my point of view.
Well, there is another cheaper option that is making its rounds, and that is Tyler Adams with a relegation with that relegation release clause as depth. And I'm going to tell you right now, it is splitting U.S. Twitter, U.S. football Twitter right now, trying to figure out whether or not that's a good or a bad thing. But you talked about very quickly Ian Maastsen. I agree. He is, with Chelsea.
That's bad for Chelsea. No, that's Tyler Adams to Chelsea. I'm telling you, Enzo and Tyler Adams is in a Champions League winning midfield one day. And if it's Enzo and Caicedo, it is a Champions League winning midfield one day. I believe in that. Like Tyler Adams, I'm a bit reluctant. Yeah.
They're looking on. They're looking all over the place, and that's what you have to remember is maybe it's a stopgap until Caicedo comes. That's why I feel like Caicedo is not imminent anymore. I don't think he's imminent. I don't think he's coming in a week or two anymore. Maybe I'm saying that out of hope that Brighton can hold on to him and they can have just a ridiculous season. But when it comes down to it, you talked about Ian Maastsen, and that's great. It's wonderful to see him doing so well, and I'd love to see him get his time. But then you also, in the same setting, another guy that has impressed every time he's played for Chelsea, it's not another academy guy, Lewis Hall. And it's more likely that Lewis Hall goes out on loan, we're hearing, to Crystal Palace, than it is for him to actually get a chance in a place where they're looking at it as, Cucurella, we spent this much money on him, we have to at least give him time, and we'll just send Lewis Hall out to get. Rather, you start Lewis Hall, frankly.
I think who starts is Ben Chilwell at the left back.
Yes.
So absolutely. I think it's not Cucurella.
Made a lot this preseason.
And I think it's more on Ben Chilwell, but I agree with you. From Lewis Hall to Cucurella, I'm trust the youth guy, and Lewis Hall has shown great examples in preseason. I get where you're coming from. And I think Chelsea, they're trusting the youth 100%. Todd Boehly is literally saying, I trust the scouts. Like, I've spent more than 800 million pounds. You do your thing. And I think long-term, Pochettino has brought structure, okay? Graham Potter didn't have the same structure that you can see with the group environment, okay? It was all over the place in the past. Right now, I don't feel it. I see a united group with the mindset that they have to change things in order to stay in a long-term project of a successful Chelsea. But let's see.
Two quick things. Two quick things before we move on. I just have to say, let's hope that the Disasi and the Badiashile, that kind of Monaco allure, that Monaco partnership kind of does well here, because the last time, obviously, Chelsea signed a Monaco star.
I think it'll be Colwill.
You might remember him.
I think it'll be
It was Bakayoko. You think it'll be Colwill? Okay,
I think
we'll
Levi
see. I mean,
will start.
That's a lot to throw. That's a lot to throw right in there. The other thing I have to say, beyond Ian Maastsen, beyond Lewis Hall, the other young guy that has really, really impressed has been Malo Gusto.
True.
And I'm not saying this is a shot across the bow for Reece James, but I'm saying for Chelsea fans out there watching Reece James struggle, sadly, obviously, with injuries over the past few seasons. We know how good he is when he's fully healthy. It must be an absolute breath of fresh air to know that you will have Malo Gusto as a backup, because that kid's a unit, and he's just getting started. He is just getting started. I did have to say that. Yeah.
I would even suggest maybe in the future one day, Reece James going to the right center back role, and Malo Gusto having the entirety of that wing back slot.
Or to Madrid.
I think that could happen one day. Go to Madrid. Hey, Mbappe, that would be mad. Reece James on one side, Alphonso Davies too. That's the rumor. That's the rumor dream of every Real Madrid fan. But yes, too. I just want to say the striker. I like the Chelsea solve to the striker issue from my point of view. I know we've said in the past, he's not Harry Kane. He's not Lewandowski. He's not a Luis Suarez in the past, Nicolas Jackson right now. But he's a great potential striker that can score more than 10 to 15 Premier League goals, and that's what they needed last season. Jean Felix Havertz didn't have anyone in front of them, and that was a big problem. But tell us your thoughts about Chelsea. Do you think Caicedo is happening, and what will happen if not? Let us know in the comment section and like this video.